The video that you are about to watch is an excerpt of the original. After my long efforts in dealing with YouTube's copyright management system, I had to give up. I haven't given up my projects though. And while we cannot publish the entire video here due to the imminent danger of having the channel closed down, you can still enjoy excerpts which we've carefully chosen in order to make this video meaningful, fun, and educational. If you want to watch the complete video, including the sound of the music from the original recording, as well as special edition videos which will never be published here on YouTube due to the same copyright issues, and the Beatles 150 series, as well as other series and courses, you're welcome to visit my Ko-fi or Patreon page. I hope you enjoy this video. Hey everyone! We are at number 38 in this Beatles 150 series, and with this song, we are moving. We are moving to a new album, which is entitled Help. And while I have never heard anything on this album, I only know what I've read about it from your comments. I haven't done any research on it yet. I get the impression that this is a big step forward. And also because of the expression on Vlad's face as he sits behind the camera here. And I know that he has been so eager. This is one of the milestones he's been waiting for us to cross, is me being able to listen to Help. So here we are. New album, Help, and I believe the song itself is entitled Help today. So let's see what we have to read about it, and then we'll dive in. The official genre description is folk rock, kind of saying it's folksy again, perhaps. Release date is the 19th of July, 1965. Help is the fifth Beatles studio album released on the 6th of August, 1965. This is the beginning of what most critics refer to as the Beatles' middle period. And well, if you've been listening to the most recent songs that I've listened to in this series, the last 3, 4-ish, you will notice that I have been saying that I sense their style developing. I sense that they're moving forwards. And so it doesn't surprise me that we are ready for a big leap in musical development. Because the most recent songs up to this point have felt like they're on the cusp of a change, or at least there's the potential for change. Well, since we have the gift of hindsight, we can say, yes, they actually did change. Now, I wouldn't know that. Nobody would have known that back before this album came out. But I think anybody listening to those last few songs on the previous album could say, they're tending towards something more, they want something special, and it's coming out. Everything is ripe for it. Writing compelling and personal lyrics coupled with emotional melodies became the rule instead of the exception. 7 of the 14 songs appeared in the film and take up the first side of the vinyl album. The second side includes Yesterday, the most covered song ever written. Wow. That makes me wonder, have I ever heard Yesterday? I have no idea. I don't recognize it. In the US, Help marked the start of artistic recognition for the Beatles from mainstream critics, including comparisons to the European art music tradition. It was nominated in the category of Album of the Year at the 1966 Grammys Awards, marking the first time that a rock band had been recognized in this category. In 2000, it was voted 119th in the 3rd edition of Colin Larkin's book, All-Time Top 1000 Albums. Kind of near the top if you're ranking 2000. It was ranked at number 29 on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Songs of All Time in 2004 and 2010. In 2006, it was recognized as one of the most significant rock albums in the Greenwood Encyclopedia of Rock History. In 2008, the 1965 Capitol Records recording of Help was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame. In September 2013, after the British phonographic industry changed its sales award rules, Help was certified platinum for recorded sales since 1994. Okay, big stuff. Richard Fried of the New York Times likened the band's songs to work from the European art music tradition, adding to what he described as the Beatles' impact on serious music. Fried cited musicologists and composers such as Leonard Bernstein and Abram Chassens as admirers of the group's work. The single became the band's 9th #1 single in America. Well, I guess we could almost say that's predictable, because the Beatles seem to be great at getting #1s. The film's director, Richard Lester, shares his input in writing the song, saying, "When the second film was being prepared under the imaginative working title Beatles 2, the writers and I wanted to call it Help. Unfortunately, we were informed by copyright lawyers that someone else had already registered that title. Ringo helpfully offered 8 arms to hold you, relating to the multi-armed statue in the script. Needless to say, there wasn't a huge amount of enthusiasm to write that song. Another desperate phone call to the lawyers resulted in the question, 'Does your title have an exclamation mark in it?' We said, 'If it helps, we can have one.' Since the other title didn't, we were in the clear. And so that is how, apparently, it became Help! With an exclamation mark." Lester continues, "That afternoon, John and Paul borrowed the studio piano and started work. By the next morning, they played the finished song to us and recorded it the next night." John, years later, often said that Help was a very personal and emotional song for him, all thanks to an exclamation mark. John Lennon knew very well that when he and Paul were asked to write the title song to their second feature film, it would very likely become their next #1 hit single, as did A Hard Day's Night the year before. As I said, kind of predictable, just because we know what they're capable of. Seems they did too. Although they were given the title to write a song around, they could very well have written another innocent pop standard, the likes of which they could churn out at any given moment, and we have seen that. Even in some of the recent listens, I've said it's almost as if they're throwing back to their early period in their pop love songs, but they were headed somewhere else. Instead, John chose to write the most revealing and personal inner feelings he had ever put into a song. With Paul's assistance, he let the world know what it was like to be John Lennon Beatle. "The only true songs I ever wrote were Help and Strawberry Fields," Lennon stated in December of 1970. "They were the ones I really wrote from experience and not projecting myself into a situation and writing a nice story about it, which I always found phony. The lyric is as good now as it was then. It makes me feel secure to know that I was sensible, aware of myself back then. That was no acid, no nothing. Well, pot." Leave it to John to say something like that. In later years, Lennon stated that the album's title track was a sincere cry for help. He regretted changing it from a downbeat, piano-driven ballad to an up-tempo pop song, which was done only as a result of commercial pressures. That's interesting. So, I wonder, is there a sample of the downbeat version somewhere that he envisioned at first? Do we know what he had in mind? We are ready. I am ready to hear Help for the very first time. Help! Well, so that is Help. Okay. Yeah, a lot has changed. It's still the Beatles. It is still Lennon's voice. It is still the Beatles sound. But you all are right. There's a whole new layer. Well, let's go back through and we'll start tearing it apart, because I don't want to try to sum it all up in this moment, okay? Help! What an introduction. I mean, let me listen to that again. I mean, there's so much going on in this song. And one of the things that I noticed on the first listen is that it sounds like there is a whole lot more multi-track recording stuff happening. So of course, I've heard them overdubbing some parts and stuff in previous songs, but this feels like it's an integral part of the entire structure design of the piece. And I'm no expert in that, but I can hear it. And it has an impact on how everything sounds as it all comes out. It takes a little bit more time to unravel this and the other part and where it's going. Plus, there's just so much happening musically in this piece. Help! Isn't it interesting the way, well, I can say there's no introduction and there is introduction. What I mean is, we don't hear the tiniest little anything before they launch into help with an exclamation mark. And one of the things that I think is so appropriate, they managed to really give the feeling of an exclamation mark after help. Like, really, help! Like, I'm yelling, help! And it comes right at the beginning. It just hits you. Like, you're hearing somebody call, help! No warning, no anticipation of trouble. It's just suddenly there. Help! In that respect, I can say there's no introduction. There's no setup. There's nothing preparing us. One of the things that I want to do in this series, and I've mentioned it several times, is that I'm interested in trying to trace the thread of their progress and see how did they grow. Because I firmly believe, no matter where they ended up, Strawberry Fields Forever or whatever, you don't just magically land in the ability to make music like that. You don't. Even if you don't have any musical training, formal training, it doesn't just happen out of the blue. There are threads of development and ideas and we can trace a lot of those lines. And that's one of the things I'm attempting to do for myself in this series. And of course, it would be much easier to tell you about it if I already knew everything, but I don't. I'm just hearing it for the first time. And so one of the things that I hear in this help, what does it remind me of? It reminds me of, which song was it that had that sudden crazy weird guitar strum attack?
A Hard Day's Night?
I think that's it. Yeah. Has the really strong strum at the beginning, right? And then there was one which had a rather complex chord strummed ding, which kind of hangs in the air.
All I Gotta Do?
Probably. I have to put the names with the sounds. And then there was another one that had the drum boom at the beginning.
Anytime at all.
Yeah, that's it. So those are the ones I'm remembering now that have a kind of similar approach in that it's unprepared. We don't have anything to set us up for the impact of that first one. And here with this help, it's now with the voices. Help! Help! But it's the same kind of approach, which is completely unexpected, unprepared. Can you imagine? Well, the question should be, can I imagine what it would be like to hear that come on the radio for the first time? Not knowing what's coming up or anything like that? I mean, arresting. Truly arresting. And it so perfectly encapsulates the sort of instant adrenaline, on guard. Who's in trouble? What's going on? What kind of help? What do I do? You know, even before we can see what the situation is. Help! You hear that cry and you're ready to go. Help! So much is happening here. So we have that help. Well, I said it's the voices. It's not just the voices. There are the instruments in the back, which give it this sort of metallic sheen. And I almost think of it as, you know, the strands of steel wool, where it's all just, there's something about it. And then, so that's what I say is the no introduction element of it. At the same time, this whole phrase is kind of serving as the introduction. And the other thing I noticed listening to it for the first time was that, well, some of the folk style songs that I've listened to, that the Beatles have done in the previous album, were kind of tending towards telling a story. And I've used the word story specifically for several songs recently, saying the story is so well told, or the story comes across. I don't feel this one so much as story. This is not a story. This is a state, a need. And that is something that I guess is kind of different. I'm trying to think. Well, there was the song that Lennon wrote, which was kind of bitter and, oh, I don't remember the details, but it wasn't so much a story. It wasn't so much a need. It was more of an emotional outburst. And
I'm a loser.
What?
I'm a loser.
Might have been that one.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been through so many. It's hard for me to. I remember qualities and elements, but to be able to put the title with the song, not always easy yet. So, this introduction, it's kind of like this is its own section where we hear the cry for help. It is help, help me, help me. We don't know the situation. We don't know anything yet. This is the immediate call. And, well, Lennon said that this was a very personal song for him. It's the first time that he really put himself into a song without any, how did he say it? He wrote from experience and not from projecting himself. Interesting he said that, because there was just another song recently which was kind of modeled after Dylan, and I said it really feels genuine. But apparently Lennon feels like this one is even more himself, more the real person, the real experience. And so I can't help but think of this introduction as Lennon saying, help. No, it's Lennon's cry for help. He's calling out, asking for help. And then, musically, formally, we call that an introduction. Even though it's got the voices and everything, but formally it is the introduction. Why is that important? Because of what comes next. I love this melody, counter melody. It's great, and I'll get to that. But my point that I was getting at first is that first we hear the call for help. Now we hear the explanation of what's going on. And this song, the lyrics seem to be kind of explaining, telling the situation, kind of like, okay, we call 911 and call for help, and they say, all right, give me your address, tell me what's going on so that we can send the right personnel out for you. That's kind of how this is set up. So it's not a story like some of the others have been. At the same time, there is a descriptive element to it. We get the picture. We are eventually told the story of the situation. And it's just interesting noticing those things along the way. Okay, so these voices. Oh, they are fabulous. But I have to stop because I forgot. I forgot to talk about... There is so much in here. The introduction. The way the bass walks down. Bum, bum, bum. It's so wonderful. You hear it kind of walking us into a location, and we don't really know where it is yet. When the first time I heard it, I didn't know. That's another thing. The Beatles seem to be masters of setting up an ambiguous introduction where we don't really know our orientation. Which direction are we headed? What's going on? How is this going? And that's kind of how it struck me the first time through. Where is this music taking me? Where can I expect to land? We finally feel like, oh, we've gotten our bearings. Again, it's so well set up to this help. Where do I turn? Who can help me? Help, help. I have no clear place to reach out and grab hold of somebody's hand. I don't know what I need or how to get it. It's such a wonderful expression, and I'm just trying to imagine John Lennon, any of the Beatles really. I suppose it might have applied to each of them in some way. I suppose some of them handled the fame better than others. It seems like it was kind of hard on Lennon. But when I was younger, so much younger than today, I never needed anybody's help in any way. They're just some kids singing in some clubs, bars, whatever. And then suddenly they become famous. And it's been obvious that they were working hard. They had a work ethic, and they were just churning out music. They were not just riding the waves of their fame, but the fame was there, and it was kind of hurting them. And the extreme, they're young, of course, they're energetic, but still the extreme workload, touring, recording, creating, that's got to be overwhelming too. And so this starts out, I was so much younger than today. I never needed anybody's help anyway. I'm just playing, having fun with my music. But now those days are gone, and I'm not so self-assured. I've opened up the doors. I'm feeling down. Help me if you can. I'm in this situation now. I'm famous. I have contracts. I have commitments. I suppose at that point they had plenty of money too. All of this freedom and at the same time restriction placed upon me. It's not the life I imagined for myself. It's not the life that I'm prepared to live. I don't know. I'm lost, disoriented, and I feel myself tending towards just falling apart. It's somebody help me get my bearings, help me get myself stable again. It's not just the need for emotional stability, or the need for professional stability, but the need to know where you're going. What is the goal? What are we going to achieve here? And how are we going to make a life out of it? So I hear all of that in this opening. And I begin to hear a bit more of the picture as the verse begins. And that's the point at which we first anchor on this key point, this location, the key of A major. Isn't that counter melody so beautiful? There's something kind of, it feels like two rubber bands being stretched at different points. One longer than the other, and then the other way. We never really know exactly which one's going to start first, which one's going to end first. It's not a pure imitation, one of the other. Neither is it strictly a harmonizing part. This second part actually starts first on the A. Bum, and then it holds bum as he starts da, 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 and then we hear this finally growing dee dee dum bum, and now it's holding this note da, 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 bum, bum. And so at first it is really leading the way, or setting the stage, establishing a groundwork. It is the first voice to enter. But then what happens here is now the main melody, dum da dum bum bum, and now it is the second voice which is echoing that bum bum bum. And so you can think of it like two cars driving on the highway. Two lanes, same direction. Sometimes one is ahead, sometimes the other is ahead, sometimes they're side by side. And you never know which one is going to pull ahead first. It's this wonderful dynamic between the two. And I love it. And I like the way that it really keeps me kind of on the edge of my seat. It's an interesting way to build tension because it's not a harmonic tension, neither is it so much a rhythmic tension. It is a question of who leads. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, which one's going to cross the finish line first, that one or that one? There's a suspense. A very unusual way of building musical tension and suspense. And the drums. I'm to the point now where I feel like it should just be a given. It should be understood that every song Ringo is great. That's just it. I mean, should I even say it again? Because it's almost an insult to him to say, oh, he's great here, because that implies that maybe he's not great somewhere else. He's great everywhere. He does this incredibly appropriate work every single time. And here is one of those moments where I just have to say, even though I feel like it's almost an insult, but I have to say, Ringo does the perfect thing, because it's been kind of telling the story, stuff, and then suddenly here he comes, and that's telling us that, oh boy, help, hurry, just come on, boom, 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 help. This bass is perfect. Help me if you can, I'm feeling down. Bum, bum, bum. I'm way down here. That's a little bit of folksy style fingering guitar. And it happens just at the moment that he says, won't you please? One of the things I noticed about this melody is that it's quite narrow in range. It has a sort of internal pressure. There's a restriction about it. Help me if you can, I'm feeling down. And I'm kind of making that up because you can tell. Anyway, and then suddenly, won't you please? And it's like that's accentuating the pleading. Won't you please? It's kind of a reaching up to. Can anybody give me a hand up there? Can you just reach down and help me? Won't you please? I'm looking up to you because I am down here. The bass takes us down, and then the voice says, please, I'm looking up. Can you please do something for me? So it I've talked about dimensions, multi-dimensional music, and the way in which music can kind of give a feeling of height and depth, length, width, breadth, all of these different things, and locations. And this music is doing that. It's not the first time Beatles has done that, but it is put to perfect application here. We feel the limitations of his condition in the vocal range, and then suddenly it breaks out, please, kind of like it's reaching up, also as it's begging, pleading. Such a great moment. Feet back on the ground. You know, it's kind of like Lennon is saying, you all think of me as being up. I'm the star of the show. I'm famous. You all look up to me, but actually I'm down. I'm down. And I'm looking up and asking for help. Won't you please? You appear, please. And at the same time, to set that, again, the locating spatial element, the da-da-da-da-da-da-da strumming, kind of, in that context, you could say that it is a representation of performance, a representation of when they go out to give a concert. Da 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 da. I'm playing da 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 da. But please, you up there, I'm down here. I'm the one who's down and struggling and don't have my feet under me. Probably wasn't intentional that they, like, it probably wasn't deliberate for them to use the guitar that way, but that's how it fits into the picture, at least to my ears. Notice how it lightens up, the instrumental accompaniment tones down, we could say. Not so much lightens up, tones down, backs off, becomes gentler. And it feels slower in tempo. I would have to check with the metronome to see if it's really slower, but it feels slower. The drums have disappeared, so this urgency, this scrambling, this kind of clawing, or the feeling of us rushing to help. What can we do? What can we do to help? That's gone. Now we have a little bit of a space, and in this space, it's as if he's saying, I'm serious, and let's focus on my problem, because here is my problem. And it's a real problem, and just let's look at the problem. Let's not have all this rush and scurry around. Let's feel the problem. And then it picks up again a little bit more, but that is a place where it's kind of like we've gotten to him, and we said, okay, tell me where it hurts. Tell me what the problem is. And then we all sit and we listen. And he tells us, all he can say is, when I was young, I felt fine, I felt good, but now I'm lost. I don't know what's going on. And it's a moment of focus around the kind of the center of the problem, trying to identify really what's going on. And at the end, as we've been hearing, won't you please help me? Then suddenly we've been going verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse, chorus. Very song style, very, very folk song style, which probably is one of the things that makes it identify as folk rock, because we don't really have guitar solo, we don't really have bridges and those sorts of things. It's really just intro, verse, chorus, verse, chorus, verse. And then over the course of these choruses, we are constantly hearing, won't you please help me? And as we come to the end, that is how we finish. Won't you please help me? And then again, this cry, help, help. Please help. We never find out if he gets help, at least not in this song. As I said, this is not a story. Although we have heard some wonderful stories sung by the Beatles recently, this is not a story. It could be something about which we write a story or sing a story later. It's an event, and it's an unresolved event. We end, and he's still crying for help. We never know if help has arrived. I mean, it doesn't tell a story. And going back to the beginning of the song, help! Help! I guess the special thing about this song is that it is the cry for help. It's not a song about a love. It's not a song about an event. It's not a song about asking for help. It is the asking for help. It is the cry. It is the need. I'm not saying that I'm going to write a song about needing help. I just need help. And I guess that is one of the things that makes this song stand out to me as one of the new elements that they bring to this. A great start to an album. I guess if I were to hear this, I am hearing this. I have a little bit of preparation, anticipation, because I know that it's a great album, although I've never heard it, because I've been told that by you, by Vlad, by plenty of people, by history. So I can't, even though I'm coming to it brand new, at the same time I can't say that it's quite like hearing it on the radio for the first time or buying it and putting it on the turntable and thinking, what am I going to hear? And having no clue. I have no clue, but I have a bit of a clue. And I am eager to hear the rest of the album and hear all that they have to put into this music. It's going to be a grand time. So I'll see you soon.